Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the podcast Unpacking My Childhood Suitcase. I am your host, Cindy Chen. In my last episode, I talked about the truth about bullying, which is which I mentioned at length. The first part about for the one type of bullies that I had encountered in my life. One is those who push and shove you, and well, in my case, pull my pants down. And I gotta say, I actually had cried while I was recording this episode. No, well, maybe not exactly cry, but I actually felt like I was about to cry when I recalled that memory, trying to unblock it as best I could. And may I say, I actually I could feel this surge of anxiety coursing through me as I had recorded this because, well, I gotta say, I was actually scared shitless. Scared shitless that the bullies that I had encountered a little over 30 years ago would come after me, troll me. Yeah, I'm just worried that if I go on naming the people that I probably would not remember, that what are the chances of them coming after me? But I do remember that I do have an army of friends who would flank me and take up the bat for me, which would be really fantastic. But I actually do have an Instagram by any chance. So if you want to follow me, you can follow me at My Childhood Suitcase on Instagram. Oh, by the way, a disclaimer, I am going to do a bit of research to see who you are. I actually had one unknown person try to send me a follow request several times, much as I did to decline his request. If you want to send me a follow request, just send me a direct message or something or other. But if you don't have as much of a picture and if you don't have any mutual connections, you are most likely a spam bot, and that I do not want my information to be harvested. I'm very, very careful about these things. But anyway, on to the main show. This is episode 4, The Truth About Bullying, part 3. Now, folks, as I said in the last episode, there's one type of bully that's people who push you and shove you, and what I'm about to talk to you today is another type of bully. Those who actually cut you down in order to build you up. And yeah, I did not know. I'm just going through this as the older I get, the more reflective I become. And one of these reflections I am going through today is the kind of friends who turn out to be bullies. But yeah, there had been quote unquote friends who were actually bullies, and the first bullies I will mention is Sarah and Eliza. Those are the two girls from when I was I think it was from 3rd grade to 5th grade in elementary school that I have to say, actually it was Sarah who was the more dominant of the two, because she had the final say on everything. In fact, I'm not sure exactly how I met these girls, but maybe I met them in the same class, or maybe I met them at recess. I don't know. I just remember that they either asked me to play with them at recess or asked me to have lunch with them in the cafeteria. I don't know. But I just remember a few of the incidents that usually I don't know if this is a slow thing, but this type of bullying doesn't really happen in big ways, but can actually happen in small ways and slowly in a way that you would not even notice until years later. And that yeah. Anyway, I remember this one incident when I got a call from Sarah, and she said something about Eliza being in an accident. And I think I spent the next day and a half crying over Eliza, crying through my lunch, crying through my dinner, crying to the fact of not being able to watch TV without thinking of how hurt she might be, that she may be in hospital. run over by a car, that is, and crying myself to sleep. And then only to find the next day, I get a call from Eliza saying that she was actually okay. And I was like, oh, thank God you're all right. But turns out she was never in an accident. She was all right. I'm not sure if she was in this with Sarah or just an unwitting victim, but looking back, I realized I felt incredibly duped. She did not look hurt or anything. She didn't have any scars or broken bones or anything. She was just all in one piece. And I did not like being lied to, but being a kid with autism, I had no other way up. I did not know how to make friends. In fact, I didn't know how to socialize, much less than echoing the dialogue from the TV and watching cartoons and actually escaping into the animated world of, say, The Simpsons and so on and so on. And Sarah and Eliza, they were kind of the first friends I made, and I didn't want to lose them, so I just didn't give them up right away. And another memory that I remembered about hanging out with them was that I would go over to Sarah's family apartment building, and the thing that I remember the most was singing a whole bunch of Selena songs. Oh yes, around that time in the late 90s, Selena was very popular at that time, and I just realized it's been 30 years since she died, so rest in peace, Selena. You're always one of the best Tejano singers. Oh yeah, I just remember singing songs like, I'm getting used to you. And another one is Como la Flor and Dreaming of You. Yeah, Como la Flor. That was the first time I actually learned how to speak Spanish. In fact, I actually watched the Selena with Sarah and Eliza, and Jennifer Lopez was all right. I mean, I don't know if that actually catapulted her career. Anyway, we started practicing singing all the Selenas to put up a mini concert for Sarah's family. And I think I can't remember what song that we were practicing, that actually I was practicing. Oh, yeah. It was either Como la Flor or Dreaming of You. I remember kind of fumbling on the lyrics, and then Sarah kind of bawled me out. Actually chewed my head off for not looking at the lyrics and just kind of wandering off and making me feel like an idiot. Making me feel like I'm a stupid fool for not watching the lyrics while I was trying to sing. And, I think Sada had the kind of dominant personality that would say this following phrase: do this or do that, or I won't be your friend anymore. And I don't like when somebody threatens to end my friendship just because I would fail their shit test, whatever the hell that is. And yeah, I think she had some sort of a shit test going on, and I somehow had failed it by not looking at the lyrics. And yeah, I think that was definitely how that defined me. There was something about me that kind of liked being bossed around because I didn't want to be alone, and I was a people pleaser. I needed to please this girl in order to feel less alone and continue being her friend. And Eliza, I think she was kind of a bit controlling too, but to a lesser extent. But Sara always had the last word for everything. And I think they kind of disappeared afterwards. Afterwards, I think this ended when I went to middle school, and I'm kind of glad I did not have to see them again. Oh wow, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling my heart kind of pitter patter right now. So if I'm laughing, it's because I am very, 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 very nervous. But yeah, there's another kind of friend that would also be a bully was and even though she was shorter than me, she somehow had a way of controlling me that started from freshman year. One of the incidents that I had with her, it felt a bit dramatic at that time, but it was definitely just really petty in hindsight. That one time when I was in college and I was finished with my classes that day, and I was meeting up with for lunch, and when I went when I went over to her house, she was still in the middle of finishing up her term paper, and I wanted to commence with our lunch as scheduled. And I don't know whether I was pushing it or she didn't communicate to me that she was busy, but she couldn't have said that I'll meet you up for coffee afterwards. Anyway, we um we were going down to sushi to have lunch, but she had her arms crossed, sitting silent, not really talking to me, not even saying one word to me, but making it seem like I was inconveniencing her. And that was actually one of the most awkward lunches I ever had. Sitting across from someone who would not say two words to you, and hearing their chewing sounds very loudly. It almost seems like a movie when you hear someone munching on their lunches very loudly, and God, it was so fucking awkward. And I drove her back to her house, and yeah, I drove her back to her house, and she opened the car door, and just shouted to me, thanks for nothing." Then slammed the back door and said, "Nothing." God, I did not like that look of anger on her face. I don't know what I did wrong. I just remember just feeling like I could actually scream. And I waited until she went back in the house, and I went driving to my babysitting job that time, and I actually found myself screaming at the top of my head in the car, and just starting to cry afterwards. That was definitely not a great day. Not a great day when you've had a fight with a friend. You see, it's one thing to be fighting with a boyfriend or girlfriend, but when it comes to fighting with your friend, God, it's it is. I don't know if it's different. Maybe it's different or something, but it can really ruin your day. Any kind of argument you have, whether it be your boyfriend or girlfriend or one of your best friends, it can really ruin your mood. And another incident with was me coming home from classes and meeting up with her for lunch, and sit with her, and I was crying. I can't remember what happened in class. I can't remember what class I was taking at Seattle Pacific, but I was venting out my sorrows to her, and those three words that she said to me that kind of struck a chord with me was "suck it up." And may I say, that was the absolute worst thing you could actually say to your friend or your loved one or anybody else who just needs someone to listen, to be a sounding board. I felt very invalidated and unheard. And I didn't really think about it at the time, but I did not want to be alone, and I just didn't want to lose her friendship. But then eventually, back in 2018, when she texted me and apologized for her behavior over the years because of her depression and anxiety, I felt all these negative feelings coming back, and how you say, living rent free in my head. I cannot help but feel this old resentment bubbling up. All these bad feelings because of the way she treated me. I mean, yeah, she definitely have treated me shamefully, even after getting along in high school. I think this is after we graduated high school. It's things just started going downhill. Started going downhill after I got my first car at 19. And shortly after that, she started bumming rides with me. And at first, it was fun to have a traveling companion with me. It actually became less fun after her parents actually gifted her their old car, and she never even bothered to learn how to drive it. I mean, the least she could do is just give me rides in her car instead of me having to drive around all of the greater Seattle area. And I didn't like all those nights where I had to cart her around up to the youth district for a volunteer shift at and the fact that I didn't like having to wait around for her to finish from 8. I think it was around from 8 to midnight, and I sometimes would end up having to wait around for her to finish at least 10:30. And well, it's not much when you would pay about 5 to 10 bucks to get in, but it can't. But when I have an internal clock within me because of my parents. So my parents would have me go to bed around 10, and I think after 10 o'clock I would feel really sleepy, and and I could I mean I could have just said, Alex, call up your boyfriend, have him take you home. Don't because have him take you home, but don't depend on me to do all the driving for you. And one of those nights when the 11 p.m. show, actually sorry, 10:30 show 10:30 p.m. show was done around midnight. She would have me go to the nearest bar for drinks afterwards, as much as I could to try to decline and go home and try to keep my dad's curfew. She would actually force me to have a drink with her so that she would not have to drink alone. So because of my nature, my sensitive nature, and wanting to please her, I acquiesced. And at, after I have my one drink, I began to feel really sleepy, and she would always tell me to suck it up and have another drink. God, I did not like getting headaches, and I did not like the wrath of my dad. More like the wrath of, yeah, kind of like the wrath of dad. Whenever I would come home late, say around midnight 30 or to 1 o'clock. Yeah. Well, long story short, too late. I am really glad I am no longer my friend, because I'm no longer her friend, because I could not stand her controlling behavior. And when she left for Texas in 2013, I was actually more than happy to no longer have her in my life. And I realized just how freeing that was to not have someone say, "Don't do this, don't do that," or have drinks with me, or stop feeling really sleepy and stay awake, etc., etc., etc. So, I guess maybe what I am trying to say as the theme of this episode was, with friends like these, who needs enemies? Before I sign off, I want to leave you with this message. Take a close look at the kind of company you keep, and really reflect on whether these friends are worth keeping, and if they turn out to be just not the kind of people that you really start evaluating, and take a look at yourself. And nobody likes being controlled, nobody likes being lied to, and most certainly nobody likes to be told to suck it up. If your friend comes up to you with a problem, just sit down with that person and say, and ask them what happened, and then follow up with a few questions, and paraphrase. Don't judge them or anything. Just sit down and listen. Because seriously, you never know the kind of company you keep until those moments come when you really need them, and it'll be the kind of test that you take. So, looks like I'm going over the limit. So, as always, I want to leave you with this: I hear you and I see you. Love you guys.